Okay. Hello. This is not my thing, but here I go anyway. I moved to Charlotte 3 years ago, as Dominique said, and I had this little chalkboard in my kitchen. The first year, it said survive. The second year, it said thrive. The third year, it said love everyone the most. All three of these were themes and big milestones for me. The little chalkboard, unfortunately, didn't make the cut in my new tiny house, but if it had, it might say something like, next chapter. I'm not really sure when the last chapter of my life began, but I do know that it ended abruptly on September 4th, 2018, when Kirk, my high school sweetheart, the dad to my 7 kids, and my husband of 34 years, died by suicide. It was unexpected, and it was horrible. Fast forward 4 years, almost to the day, I spent the first week of September in Chicago with my friend Pam. Her husband had died suddenly. It was a heart attack, not suicide, but for her it was every bit as traumatic and all-consuming. When my husband died, I pledged right away not to become suicide lady. Nope, wasn't interested in that, wasn't going to be defined by that. But I've softened on that, and in this case with Pam and in many others, I found that my experiences and my healing journey have qualified me to encourage others and support them in their struggles. I now realize and am willing to admit that my story can be a gift to others. I was somebody who survived horrific loss and could assure her that she could survive too. I was able to help her navigate the painful process of helping her kids plan their dad's funeral the same way that my kids had. It was torture to watch them, but at the same time it was beautiful and a great privilege to share this moment in their lives in such an intimate way. Could it be that my experiences had qualified me for such a time as this? I think so. Anyway, that was a long rabbit trail to introduce myself again. I'm a widow, I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, and even now a girlfriend, Victor Bond. I'm 4 years into life as a suicide survivor, but I'd like to say I'm 4 years into some miraculous healing, experiencing love and grace in ways that I never would have dared hope for 4 years ago. So here we go. We're going to go back to the chalkboard and the 3 things I think we go through after trauma. The first one I said was survive. I don't remember much about the day my husband died, but I do recall thinking that I needed to get as close to God as possible, or I wasn't going to make it. But honestly, I didn't have the capacity to do that myself. So my version of this has looked like listening to a lot, and I mean a lot, of Christian music. There are lyrics that speak to me like nothing else. When I couldn't read, I couldn't think, I couldn't pray, I couldn't make a decision to save my life, the music would speak into my heart. For months, I cried myself to sleep listening to the same bedtime playlist every night. And now the truths in those songs have become the basis of what God has shown me about my next chapter. Some of my favorite lyrics came from the songs I had on repeat for that first year. One was a Christmas song. It goes like this: hope has come to us tonight. Death is drowned out by his light. Hope is here and he's alive. He takes our pain and lifts our eyes. Another was the song Defender. We sing that here sometimes, and I love it. When I thought I lost me, you knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your love. You picked up all my pieces, put me back together. You are the defender of my heart. My favorite, though, that I have to point out is an artist called Zach Williams. This talented singer and songwriter has a huge heart for people who are struggling. He was one of us. He struggled in a mighty way, and he's always ready to share his story. Look him up. Listen to his songs. They will bless you in such a huge way. His words and his testimony have spoken to my heart over the last few years. I may have even snuck around at a concert to his trailer so I could meet him. Yeah, I got a hug. I got a guitar pick. This giant in the Christian music industry, he stopped for a moment and he blessed me. And I had an opportunity to thank him for just how his music had spoken into my life. I think this is what we're supposed to do for each other as Christians. And even if you're Zach Williams or if you're JacqueSpencer, whoever you are, you can stop and bless someone like that. That was kind of another rabbit trail, sorry. Anyway, back to the talk. Of course, survival looks different for all of us. For you, maybe it's not music. But the point is to find something or someone that can speak truth and healing into your life. Unashamedly, please seek support and comfort. Celebrate your littlest breakthroughs. I said to Pam, you made it. You made it through a day. Sometimes you made it through an hour, a minute, whatever it takes, celebrate that. Be gracious to yourself. This is uncharted territory. Nobody should have to endure what you're enduring, but you are, and you can. Acknowledge your frustration. Somehow that makes it easier. And for goodness sake, ask for help if you need it. Let me add here that at icuTalks, your story matters so much to us and to Jesus. Look for him and us to walk with you in your pain. It doesn't matter what your story is, or if it's more or less painful or dramatic than somebody else's. It's not a competition. People have told me their stories only to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, your story's worse than mine. It's not about that. Your horrible story is your horrible story. Let people help you through it. Your painful loss is every bit as important to Jesus. And here at icuTalks, I have seen that your painful story is very important to the people here, and they will help you through it. Okay, so back to the chalkboard. The next word was thrive. So we've survived, now we're going to thrive. At some point early on, I declared that I wasn't going to do anything I didn't want to do, and I was going to do everything I wanted to do from now on. Maybe that was a slight overreaction to my circumstances. I don't know. I still pay my bills. I clean the bathroom, do stuff like that. But the idea, I think, is solid. I have allowed myself, and God has cooperated in allowing me to enjoy such a rich life of experiences and adventures. I drive a super cool big blue truck, which I dreamed of for years. I'm moving into a tiny house this week, as I mentioned before. I booked a trip to the Dominican Republic to snorkel with humpback whales. You get the idea. I'm moving forward. But it's been a process. My first attempts at reclaiming my life and thriving were complicated. After nine months after Kirk died, I went on my first short-term mission trip again, which had been something that I've been used to doing for most of my adult life. I spent a fair amount of time in Mexico crying and not contributing. But on the same trip, I rediscovered my passion for missions, and I felt like my old self, even if it was only for very brief moments. I even shared my story in a devotional. It felt so great to have a place and a purpose. I've been back there 4 times since, and I'm headed there next Wednesday for a couple weeks. God has allowed me to connect with him and with my old self in so many beautiful ways. What would thriving look like to you? Do you have an old dream you could rekindle? Can you allow God to give you a new dream, a new purpose, a skill, a passion you can share? All my adult life, I've heard Jeremiah 29:11, and I kind of always thought, yeah, God has a plan for me. But recently, it has seemed so real to me that this is a personal promise. I have felt in a very real way God showing me that he has a plan for me, to prosper me, not to harm me, to give me hope in a future. Wow. How amazing after all of this mess that I went through. So we survived the best we can. We thrive to get our feet back under us, and we can see that God wants to prosper us and not harm us. The third phrase from my little chalkboard was, love everyone the most. It comes from a mural on the wall of my church, and I really love it. I believe it should be the theme of our next chapter. It's a lofty goal, but we can spend the rest of our lives working on it. For me, it looks like unconditional love and support for my kids and grandkids, serving locally and overseas, finding ways to be intentionally generous, and sharing my story to encourage people. Your next chapter might not include mission trips, a tiny house, or a big blue truck, but I pray it does, at least the truck. Maybe you're still struggling through surviving or starting to thrive. Again, it's a process. Let your process include leaning on people who have gone before you and endured. And then when you're ready, let your next chapter include being mindful of lifting up and encouraging people toward healing and wholeness. I've really come a long way in 4 years, and I'm so thankful for that. My friend Pam has just begun to walk through her mess, but both of us will keep our eyes on Jesus and let him love us through it. And at the same time, hopefully we will find opportunities to show Jesus to the next person. And that is a beautiful theme for our next chapter of life. Love everyone the most. I'm excited to see exactly what that means for me, for Pam, and for all of you as well. Thank you.